I said that one of our initial directions was the University of Washington, but the other, and probably much greater, was to begin to commit ourselves to the United Farm Workers effort in California. So the Great Boycott in 1968 begins to send organizers throughout the country, and they sent an incredible couple to Seattle, Janet and Dale Van Pelt, as to organize the Great Boycott here. And we were already here when they arrived, and they told us that to expect them. And again, similar to the experience of others that meet organizers, you sort of expect to see, I don't know, you imagine individuals bigger than life. But they just told us as students to look for this white Chevrolet Nova with California license plates, and that would be the people we were supposed to meet. And I remember that he parked his car in front of the George Washington statue, and then he gets out of his car, and he was nothing like what we expected. He was not a very big person, and he had sort of, he's not well dressed. Coming from Eastern Washington, I think the gene revolution is yet to come to the University of Washington. So you sort of dress the part, or we attempted to dress the part of collegiates. Then we see this organizer coming, and we kind of shook our heads, but he was keen, and he begins to sort of set goals and targets, and also help us with the process. And just to give you an example, the union actually sent from California Fred Ross Jr. and Jim Drake, which were very high in the union organization at the time. Jim Drake, since deceased, and others have left the organization. But these were Fred Ross Jr., of course, the son of the great labor organizer. And they come up here, and they take us to Seebeck for a 2-3-day retreat. And the retreat is just how to organize people. So these were incredible skills. Personal, but also greater human skills that we were able to use. I became the chair of the boycott committee at the University of Washington. And our only goal was to stop the sale of grapes at the university. And we committed ourselves to that. And then we began to strategize over the process. And we started with, they left a film called Huelga. In English, it's Strike. It's an old classic film. It's a film of the 1965 strikes. And they left us the film. And they said, this is all you need to organize the students. And the idea is that we would educate the student body. And we started at Lander because Lander had, maybe of the original 30 students, they had the most Latinos. By the following year, there were more. And eventually Lander will become sort of the, quote, ethnic residence halls. They will establish these floors. There will be a Chicano floor, a black floor, and so forth. Okay, unlike the other, a kind of ghettoization, if you will, but nevertheless. So we started with Lander Hall, and we publicized that we'd be showing this film, Huelga. In fact, the film is right there. It's so old and brittle that the sprocket the sprocket actually driving the film tore it, and it's just waiting for for something to be done with it. But we started showing that, and it was an incredible experience, because at the time the University of Washington, perhaps unlike today, students are caught up in the civil rights movement. It didn't take much at the time
to get you going,
to get us going and get them going. So we showed the film, talked about farm workers, talked about Eastern Washington, and no one could dispute because we were from that area. There were some challenges. There was the Young Republicans organization that was almost everywhere at the time. Not only challenging us, but challenging other left of center student organizations. But once we spent an hour or so talking to them, we said, now let's take a vote. And the vote was to ask the Lander Hall residents administration, that we didn't want to have grapes sold in the cafeteria. When it was put up to a vote, overwhelmingly yes. Okay? So we took it. They said, essentially said yes. I mean, if students want to be served grapes, we won't serve grapes. And we went from Lander Hall to all the residence halls. And we got rid of grapes. Then the biggest challenge was the hub. We approached the hub in the same way. By now we were becoming very sophisticated. So the administrator for the hub was a fellow by the name of John Bickford. A good man. And let me just say one other thing. That at the time there was the dean of students, incredible man. Today you hardly see the dean of students. I don't know if students know who he is, but he would come into the hub, and he spoke Spanish. He would hear us speaking Spanish. He would sit down and have coffee with us, and we would sort of talk with him, and he was helpful. He was a very tall, distinguished man. So we were picking up a lot of sort of alliances. By now, the Students for Democratic Society, the Young Socialist Alliance, all of these other groups, they're looking for reasons to exist as well. Okay, so they're coming, and this coalition is growing. The BSU is growing. So we approached the hub and we said, look, this is what's happened in the other residence halls. We don't want grapes sold, served in the hub. The process there was a little bit different because there's a hub advisory committee that advises the hub on food, menu, and so forth. And so we realized that maybe a better way to go was to work within that system. So I got elected to the hub advisory board, hoping to change things, but it was one vote against other votes, so we didn't get anywhere there. So we decided to organize a boycott of the hub, and the boycott essentially was this: that we went to Dick's up on 45th. We got a station wagon. We collected money. At the time, the Black Panthers are collecting money in front of the hub. Everybody's. It was easy at the time. We collected sufficient funds. There were community people from the Retail Clerks Union. There were a lot of church people that were very important and supportive of us. Van Pelt had done an incredible job organizing the labor community in Seattle in support of what we were doing at the University of Washington. So we got enough donations, and we just loaded the station wagon with hamburgers. We backed it up on the north side of the hub, and we then started handing out hamburgers on the condition they didn't go into the hub. And what Bickford had told us, if you can prove to me that selling grapes hurts sales at the hub, of course I'll take them off. We were doing some picketing as well. We were picketing in the main floor and the lower floor, where most of the food is served. And we were very successful. We were not. It was not a. It was not a. There were still people that were coming in, so we decided with the larger boycott, and it worked. I mean, students would rather take free food than spend their own money. It didn't take long. The hub, as we would say then, capitulated, gave in, and the University of Washington was one of the first campuses in the country that didn't serve grapes. Then WSU followed others, and this was dramatic, because nothing begets success better than success itself. Once that happened, it almost appeared that we could do almost anything.